Kaufman conference call. Today's conference is being recorded. At this time, for opening remarks and introductions, I'd like to turn the conference over to Ryan Grabb. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. As a reminder, Strikeforce Rousey versus Kaufman airs live on Showtime at 10 p.m. Eastern and Pacific with a takeaway on the West Coast, Saturday, August 18th from the Valley View Casino Center in San Diego, California. Additionally, 4 prelims will be shown on Showtime Extreme beginning at 8 p.m. Eastern Pacific, also with a takeaway on the West Coast. This time, I'd like to turn the call over to Executive VP and General Manager of Showtime Sports, Mr. Steven Espinoza, for some opening remarks.
Thanks very much. We at Showtime are very excited to be bringing our viewers another tremendous women's MMA main event, Rousey versus Kaufman. As most of you know, Showtime's always supported the female division, women's MMA, and will continue to do so as long as we're getting great fights like this fight event. Obviously, Rhonda's the current champion. Sarah's the former champion, getting a well-deserved title shot. And in sort of preparation for this, wanted to remind everyone that premiering tonight is All Access Ronda Rousey. First airings at 9:30 p.m. Eastern and Pacific. And as those of you familiar with the series, All Access gives our viewers sort of an intimate look into the personal and professional lives of our athletes. In this case, we're looking back at the journey that Rhonda has been on, from her early athletic career through the Olympics to becoming the Strikeforce women's bantamweight champion, placing that in context of women's MMA and the development of that sport, and introducing as well Sarah into the story and documenting why we think this is going to be such an exciting fight. Again, that's premiering tonight at 9:30. Multiple replays on Showtime, Showtime Extreme, and CBS Sports Network. Also available Showtime On Demand. And then the second episode of this 2-episode series is going to air next Wednesday, week from today, also at 9:30 p.m. Thanks.
Thanks, Stephen. Also, Stephen will be available on the call when we open up for questions for a few minutes and run to another meeting. But also on the call today, we're joined by current Strikeforce bantamweight champion Ronda Rousey, as well as her opponent and former champ Sarah Kaufman. This time, I'd like to turn the call over to Strikeforce CEO Scott Coker.
Thanks, Ryan. I'd also like to thank the media for attending today's conference call, as well as thank Steven Espinoza from Showtime Television, who's been a great broadcast partner for Strikeforce since 2007. I'd also like to thank Muscle Farm for being the official sponsor for Strikeforce in 2012. We're excited to be back at the Valley View Casino Center in San Diego with another amazing Strikeforce fight. If you look at this card, again, from top to bottom, it's going to be an amazing night of fights. I'd like to thank Rhonda, our current champion, and Sarah, our former champion, for taking this fight. I wish both of you good luck next Saturday night. It's going to be an amazing night of fights. Tickets are still available at the Valley View Casino Center and at Strikeforce.com. And if you're not in the area, I would say tune in to Showtime and catch this event because it's going to be an amazing night of fights, and the main event's going to be unbelievable. At this time, let's open up for questions.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. If you'd like to ask a question on today's call, you may do so by pressing star 1 on your touchtone keypad at this time. If you're using a speakerphone, please make sure your mute function is turned off to allow your signal to reach our equipment. Once again, that is star 1 to ask a question. We'll pause for just a moment to allow everyone an opportunity to signal. And we'll take our first question from Adam Martin with The Score.
Hey guys, my first question is for Rhonda. Rhonda, in the lead up to the fight with Miesha Tate, I mean, there was a lot talking back and forth between you guys. It doesn't seem like you and Sarah are doing a lot of trash talking. I mean, do you respect Sarah a little bit more than Miesha?
I respect them both as athletes. It's just I don't really have any personal problems with Sarah at all. She actually seems like a pretty cool chick. And I don't have any problems with her, so I feel no need to invent any.
Fair enough. And, Rhonda, you've been working with Lucia Riker, boxing instructor. How has she helped your stand-up? Because obviously Sarah's, a very good Muay Thai fighter.
It is pretty cool. She comes in and gives me just some tips from time to time. She's brought me in a couple of really good sparring partners. And she hasn't really taken over as my main trainer, but she's been a great help in supplementing my training.
How about the Diaz brothers and their coach, Richard Perez?
Richard Perez has been great. He helped me with my striking a lot earlier in the camp. He kind of more helped me putting together longer combinations. With judo, you kind of have a tendency to very short exchanges. And so he just kind of helped me with the fluidity in my striking a whole lot more. And like the Diaz brothers and Cesar Gracie, they help me much more with my grappling and stuff like that. And give me some striking tips from time to time. I feel like it's good to get input from everywhere. Like even the stop clock tells the right time twice a day, and I think that they're all very intelligent and knowledgeable towards MMA. So I just try to get as much information as possible from as many people as I can.
And, for Sarah, obviously, Rhonda, there's no mistake. She's going for the armbar, and you've been submitted by armbar before and you're only lost. So, what have you been doing to make sure that's not going to happen in this fight?
Coming into a fight, you have to know that, Rhonda could go for the armbar to keep her streak alive. She could mix it up, go for something different. You can't focus too much on that one thing, but definitely, making sure that you're doing the ample amount of repetition in the proper defense and making sure you're getting out of good situations and getting out of bad situations and really putting yourself in uncomfortable spots in training, so hopefully you don't get there in fighting. I was lucky enough to be able to work with some really great people for this fight. I just had Sheila Bird come out, who's a phenomenal grappler, and worked with her quite a bit. And it's just been a great camp with my team at Zuma, and I'm looking forward to see what Rhonda brings into the cage.
And for either Scott or Stephen, how nice is it to get the females fighting again on this card? They weren't on the last card, and you have 3 female fights on next Saturday's card.
Is Stephen still on?
Yeah, I'm still on.
Okay.
As I mentioned in the opening remarks, Showtime has been a big supporter of women's MMA, and without exception, they always give us great fights, and that's what we're after here. The men's division, the women's division, we want exciting fights, and these 2 young women, Rhonda and Sarah, I know for a fact will give us that. So I can't wait.
And just one more question for you, Stephen, before you go. Can you explain the talent sharing agreement you have with Invicta Fighting Championships?
I'd rather actually just focus on the fight that we have in the main event and the undercard we have on the 18th, and maybe we can do a follow-up maybe separately. So I don't.
Okay, fair enough. Let me ask one more question then. In the co-main event, you have Jacare Souza taking on Derek Brunson. Does the winner of that fight get the next middleweight title shot?
He certainly would be in it. Go ahead, Scott.
Yes, this is Scott. You know what? That's going to be determined after the fight. Let's see how the event unfolds and how the athletes do, and then we'll circle back with Sean in Vegas and take it from there.
Thanks a lot, guys, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take our next question from Damon Martin with MMAWeekly.com.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the call, guys. First question is for Rhonda. Rhonda, since you won the title, obviously there's a lot of attention that goes along with that. You're going to be on Conan O'Brien tonight. You've been doing the ESPN body issue. How do you handle the distractions and the commitments you have as champion now versus being able to train and actually get ready for the fight?
Well, I just have different work to do. Before I was working 3 jobs, and I'm training full time. If you think about it, I'm actually doing less work now. It's just I have more work on just the fighting side. And, like I'm on Conan O'Brien today, so I got up at 5 a.m. this morning, and I did one training, and I just finished another training just now, and then I did a conference call sitting here in the locker room in my towel because I haven't had time to change yet, and then I have to run back over to my apartment, get all my stuff for Conan, run over there, and then I have another training tonight. So it's just all about organization, and I'm used to having cramped schedules like these, and, at least I don't have to stay up all night on Saturdays and Sundays.
Are you enjoying the ride so far? I mean, obviously life changes a lot. We've seen it with a lot of the champions in the UFC and Strikeforce, for that matter, that life does change when that spotlight is on you. Have you enjoyed the ride thus far?
I enjoyed it a lot more the few months after when I first won the title, but now, I'm much more focused on retaining this title instead of basking and having it. And so the last few weeks haven't been about sitting back and enjoying myself. It's been about preparing myself and being, formidable force as possible on the 18th.
And Rhonda, I know you've always been outspoken and very, you don't mind speaking your mind on things. We heard the comments a couple weeks ago with the whole Kim Kardashian situation. And my question to you would be, as a strong, female fighter, independent woman, I mean, do you look at yourself, would you look at yourself as maybe a role model to young women? Because I kind of look at female MMA fighters as that, that strong role model for young girls.
You know what? If people want to look at me as a role model for all young girls, that's fine for them. But the only people I have responsibility to is my little sister and my future kids. If taking on responsibility of having to be a role model of every single girl on earth is just too much for one person. Of course, people are going to be unhappy with me and how I act. And I'm not asking for people to be exactly like me or repeat my mistakes, but, I try my best to be, to be as ambitious as possible and as fearless as possible and as unapologetic for the way I am as possible. And if people think those are qualities to emulate, then I'm happy to, display those.
And one question for Sarah. Sarah, I know going into this fight, obviously a lot of the attention is on Rhonda, being the champion. Does that help you in some ways? I mean, you've kind of just been able to sit back and really focus on the fight and the camp itself. Has that helped at all, the attention on the fight going that direction, or does it bother you at all?
It really doesn't bother me at all. I think that Rhonda's handled it really well, and a lot of people are sending a message saying, "Oh, Rhonda's so busy doing so many other things." But I truly believe, and I've said this kind of all along, that Rhonda is an athlete, and her athletics are first and foremost when it comes to training versus. And you don't get to be a world champion, and a medalist at the Olympics from sitting back and just enjoying things. So, I really believe that Rhonda's been training hard, and I've been training, just as hard, and that's really all that I care about. That's it. The fight's going to really show who's been training the most.
Awesome. Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you. We'll take our next question from Elliot Olshansky with the Jewish Daily Forward.
Good afternoon. Question is for Sarah. Sarah, there aren't really that many Jewish fighters in MMA, particularly not at the elite level. Do you feel like you represent anything more than yourself and your training camp when you get in there and fight in terms of being a Jewish fighter?
I'm actually I wasn't raised Jewish. My dad grew up Jewish, so I'm technically not. I'm technically not part of that culture. I can respect a lot of the things that they stand for, but I don't live my life in that sense, so I don't want to give off the kind of the feeling that I do.
Understood. So, any questions about the tradition of Benny Leonard and Barney Ross and the old Jewish fighters? It's probably not the best direction to go then.
No, sorry.
All right, that's pretty much what I had. Thanks so much.
We'll take our next question from Camilo Ortiz with El Octago.
Hi, this is Camilo from El Octagono. I had a question for Rhonda. You're undefeated and have, obviously a deadly armbar, but do you feel that maybe your striking capabilities are being underestimated, especially after Miesha Tate tried to test your chin?
I hope they're being underestimated. I want to be as underestimated as possible, and as little information my opponents have about what abilities I have, the better it is for me. So I don't really feel that much of a need to give them any details.
Okay, and I have another question that was kind of asked before, but I wanted to know your thoughts on all the attention, and especially having Dana White rocking a T-shirt of your ESPN magazine cover at the UFC weigh-ins.
You know what? That actually just impressed me a lot, and just Dana White in general. It wasn't too long ago that he was telling TMZ that women would never be in the UFC, and he was very much against it. And to see that, he's such a wise businessman, and that he sees the potential in the women and is slowly warming up to it, I've been very impressed with him.
Yeah, I think that the women fighters are getting a lot of attention, and stuff like that always does help the sport a lot. And I had another question for Sarah. Obviously, your only loss was, the title shot when you lost the title to Marlos Cohen, and since then you've won your last 3 fights. I'm guessing the plan is going to be to try to keep the fight standing up. Do you feel that you have an advantage in the striking over Rhonda?
Well, I think I have an advantage in striking in the sense that I've been doing it for so much longer, just as Rhonda's been doing her judo for forever. And, there's definitely areas that I think that I'm stronger at, and really I'm prepared for a lot of different aspects. And if people think that I'm just a striker, then that's great.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it from me. I can't wait to see the fight on the 18th. Thank you.
Take our next question from AJ Perez with FoxSports.com.
This is for both you two on this question here. Yeah, every single, it seems like with the Strikeforce promotion, they seem to be putting the, it's also for Scott too, I guess, putting more legitimacy behind the women in MMA. Do you feel any extra burden to perform, and do you feel any extra incentive to put on a good show, since this is kind of moved from kind of the fringes to pretty much mainstream MMA?
Sure. I definitely, this is Sarah, I definitely feel, and I felt, since my first fight with Strikeforce, that, women in the sport are always trying to ensure that kind of that placement in that spot, and kind of vie for that legitimacy. And over time, we've definitely proven that, the fights are exciting, they're technical, there's submissions, there's knockouts. There's so much that can happen in the fight, and fans want to see those fights, and fans have been vocal about that. But it is important, every fight, especially being, the main event, having that slot and that kind of, the force behind you in terms of Showtime and Strikeforce and people supporting that. You definitely want to make sure that you're putting on a good performance, because, you don't want anyone to be able to turn around and say, oh, see, this is why women shouldn't have spotlight. So there definitely is that pressure, in some sense, to have an exciting fight.
On my end, it doesn't really add any pressure to me at all or change the fight at all. I was always raised not to win matches, but to defeat my opponents. When I was doing judo, I was an American fighter in a sport that wasn't very big in America. So if I didn't finish a fight, I was not going to win. If it ever went to the referees, it was not ever going to go my way. And if it wasn't as a dynamic a win as possible, it could even be ignored. I was always raised to be good enough to win every match twice on a bad day, and regardless of the circumstances, I'm still going to fight my fight in the same fashion. I not only just want to win, but I want to be able to discourage every single other girl that thinks she might have a chance of ever beating me.
Thank you. We'll take our next question from Mike Chiappetta with MMAfighting.com.
I'd like to start with Sarah, please. Sarah, I'm just kind of interested in talking about Ronda's armbar. Obviously, people are, pretty intrigued by the fact that she's been able to repeat the armbar victories over and over and over. I'm sure you've had time to look at it and see how she sets it up. I mean, as far as what you're looking at, how does she execute it? What makes it so unstoppable, and how do you sort of, prepare for stopping it if it comes?
I don't think it's unstoppable. It's it's one technique that can be used from multiple different angles, and Rhonda's clearly put a lot of work with the judo into those fast transitions. But it doesn't make me nervous. It's something that could happen, but it's also something that I'm prepared for, and it's an armbar, and people can have a mystique behind someone because they've had the same submission over and over again. And it does create kind of an aura of, oh, well, she's won every fight by the same thing. And I did the same thing, when I had 8 knockouts in a row. And, you do have that mystique, and then someone has to break it, and that's what I'm prepared to do.
Gotcha. And she mentioned before how, people haven't seen a lot of her striking, and it almost works as an advantage for her because you really don't know a lot about how good she is. From the little that you have seen so far from the fights, maybe you've seen her some training video tape. What do you think of what you've seen?
I think that Rhonda's had time to work on her striking, and I have no illusions that, that's probably been a focus, and I also have no illusions that, she's going to be, or that I'm going to be untouchable in terms of her striking. I really train as an all-around fighter, and I'm training as if she is a good striker, and as if she is a good, judo player, and as if she is, the slickest person on the ground, because I want to be prepared for the best, not assume, that she's kind of lower in that level.
And I just looked up the odds for this fight before I came on the call, and she's considered a really big favorite right now by the odds makers. She's up to 6-1 in some places. Just wanted to get your reaction on that. Does that anger you? You think that's kind of disrespectful? What do you think about that, having only one loss in your career?
It honestly doesn't bother me at all, and hopefully my friends can make a lot of money when I win the title.
Okay, cool. And a couple question for you, Rhonda, please. We've talked a lot about, all these experiences that you've had since you won the championship and doing all these promotional media things, this and that. What is the kind of coolest experience that you've had, the thing maybe you've enjoyed the most so far?
That's a hard one. The coolest one, I think it's just being able to have awesome seats to every single UFC event that I go to. That's my favorite thing. I'm still a fighter and I still love fighting and all these other things like, doing the stock market stuff and all these other things. So they're cool and interesting, but that's not who I am and that's not where my interests are. I just love having good seats to fight.
Cool. And I had one question for Scott before I get off. And Scott, I'm just wondering, do you have any idea what might be next for the winner of this fight?
Repeat that question one more time, please.
Do you have any idea what might be next for the winner of this fight?
Well, you know what? I think these two ladies had their hands full on Saturday night, next Saturday, and like I said, with the last question about the middleweight division, we're just going to see how this thing unfolds, take it back to Vegas, and talk with Sean and go from there.
Okay, thank you guys. Looking forward to the fight.
Thank you.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, that is *1 to ask a question. As a reminder, if you're using a speakerphone, please make sure your mute function is turned off to allow your signal to reach our equipment. We'll go next to Heidi Fang with the MMA Fight Corner.
My first question is for Rhonda. I was wondering if you feel like there's more pressure coming into a title fence as opposed to when you went after the title.
No, not at all. Like I said before, I was raised in the judo system where you fight several times in one day. And my mom has always said, only as good as your last match, and you don't fight the first fight of the day thinking about the final. And with every single fight, it's as important as the one before. You don't start with a score ahead because you did really good in the quarterfinals. I start from scratch every single time, and at every fight, I assume it's like all the work I've ever put into fighting and everything I've ever done is on the line because it is. So I always have the same amount of pressure on myself for every single fight, and everything going on outside can't compare to the own pressure that I put on myself.
And another question for you. Have you been following the Olympics and the American Judo team, and what do you think about Kayla Harrison's gold?
Yeah, I have been following the Olympics. Marty and Kayla, we all used to fight when we were younger. Me and Kayla actually used to live together, and it's funny, I was fighting 63 kilos, and she was fighting 70s, and then I moved up to 70s, and she went up to 66. We were fighting at the same club, and we were, living across the hall from each other. So I remember one day we just threw all of our jeans in the hallway, and we traded all of our jeans, and it turns out that Kayla's hypoglycemic, so she couldn't make the weight anymore without, fainting. So then she went from 63s all the way up to 78, and then we threw all of our jeans back in the hallway again and pushed all of our jeans again. And with both those girls, we traveled all around the world together, and we fought in the junior nationals and all these different tournaments together for so many years. And I just feel very blessed to have been, shared that experience with them. And I was very concerned about how USA Judo would fare without me when I was gone, because when I was competing, I was the only one really medaling consistently. And it's very encouraging to see that USA Judo is, on the right path and going in a very good direction and is in very capable hands. And I couldn't be more happy for them. They're no one works harder than those girls, and they're extremely deserving of those medals.
Great, thanks. And for Sarah, now that you've won 3 in a row after your last fight, the last loss, over Conan, do you feel that 3 in a row is giving you a lot more confidence going into this?
I don't think my confidence ever wavered. It's kind of the same as Rhonda. Every fight is the most important fight, and whatever happened in your last fight, it happened. It's over. It's done. You're starting fresh, and you're starting again with a new fight. And that's how I look at every fight, and that's how I'm coming into this fight. Yes, I want the title. Yes, I want to beat Rhonda, but it could be anyone, and I just want to win, and I want to win. I want to get a knockout. I want to get whatever I can to make sure that I get my hand raised at the end.
Okay, thank you, ladies.
We'll take our next question from Stephen Maraca with MMAJunkie.com.
Hey, Scott. I was hoping to get a little bit of an update on Cyborg Santos. I know that she fights in the featherweight, or she's traditionally fought in the featherweight class, but I think a lot of people would say that she's really only a big star in your stable of women's fighters. Is she still under contract with Strikeforce, and is there any possibility that she might be, fighting either Sarah or Rhonda down the line, possibly?
Well, Stephen, that's an interesting question because right now, like I said, Rhonda and Sarah, they have a tough test next week in San Diego, and Cyborg is out until the middle of December, and we'll have to talk to her at that time and see what her interest is as far as going down in weight. I know it's a fight that at some point I know Sean has started dialogue about talking to Cyborg about fighting at 135. So there's dialogue, but nothing's confirmed, and we'll have to wait till after she gets off suspension to have a serious conversation with her anyway.
Is she still under contract right now?
Yes.
Okay. Rhonda, I know that you guys have gone back and forth a little bit on Twitter. I was hoping that you could maybe reflect on that possibility. I know you're focused on what's going on, what's immediately ahead of you, but I was wondering if you could reflect on that possibility, and you as well, Sarah. Maybe start with Rhonda.
Well, you already said it. I'm already 100% focused on what's immediately in front of me.
How do you feel about the prospect of fighting Cyborg down the line, though?
100% of my attention is on Kaufman right now. You would have to watch that fight, and then afterward, I will let you know my intentions.
Okay, fair enough. Sarah?
Yeah, any future fights are fights that are happening in the future, and that's something to be thought about, once the fight at hand is over. I'm always open to fighting anyone, but at this point, I don't care who I'm fighting. I'm just looking at Rhonda.
Okay. And one real quick one for Rhonda, if I could. Can you talk about your experience training with Lucia Riker and how it's been and how it's performed this camp?
Like I said before, Lucia's been coming in and bringing me sparring partners, and she gives me some tips from time to time. She hasn't really taken over as being my main striking coach, but it's also very encouraging having, very strong and reputable, empowered women in the gym, and we've been having a couple of Muay Thai world champions and coming in, and Lucia Riker, who's boxing world champion, and me myself, who's a MMA world champion, and it's great to see women athletes of that caliber coming together, and it's encouraging to see where women's sport are growing.
Okay, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
We'll take our next question from Michael Mardonis with MiddleEasy.com.
Lazy, what up?
What up, Rhonda? How you doing, girl? Hey, Rhonda, my question is, how was it training up in the 209 for those 2 weeks that you were up there? What do you feel like you pulled most out of that mini training camp?
I was actually up there for 2 stints of 2 weeks. A little bit over that, I think. Actually, the second one was 2.5 weeks or something like that. I got just a lot out of it. I just got a different look at my grappling game, and I took a look at boxing as well. And a lot of times, even if you hear the same thing in different words, you understand it better. And it's also good to get outside your same training camp and just avoid plateauing and getting bored and keeping yourself interested. And I love that they have a different kind of training schedule over there where, it's very regimented when I'm home, but it's kind of more, they train however they feel like it, whatever time they feel like it when they're up there. It's not that they do less training, it's just a different style. And I think being able to get that change is what, keeps you interested and still exciting and training and novelty.
Awesome. And what was it like for you filming this All Access show?
Well, it was a little bit intrusive, a little bit more intrusive than some of the things I've done with you. It was kind of funny when the dog hit the sound guy because he was shoving a boom mic in my face. I was like, good dog. But no, it was a cool experience. I mean, I wouldn't like them to be around me every day, but The crew was, very professional and very reputable in their business, and I have no doubt that they're going to do an extremely good job with the series. So it was worth the work and the intrusion for the results.
Well, awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing it, and best of luck.
Thanks, Lizzie.
We'll take our next question from Angel Cordero with the MMA Truth.
Hi, this first question is for Sarah. You're slated to fight Rhonda next Saturday, but Cyborg keeps popping up in the conversations. Do you feel as if people are overlooking you a little bit in this fight?
I don't think so, but if they are, that's great. I'll hopefully make a good impression when the fight happens next Saturday.
Anything, looking back at the Ronda's fight with Misha, anything that you saw in that fight, that you learned in that fight, that you think you can exploit against her?
Oh, there's lots of things that I saw, but I can't tell her because she's clearly on the line right now.
Cool. And for Rhonda, of course, the topic of women's MMA in the world, it's been compared against the amount of competitors that there are in every division. And what do you do? What do you say to competitors from other disciplines that could come into MMA or might come into MMA to encourage them to start an MMA career?
Well, this is a real career that you can really make a living off of. And with women's sports, that's very rare to come by. And the more women that come in, the more stable it'll be. And I think also if people are just wanting to represent their own discipline in whatever they do, whether a wrestler or a martial artist or whatever, it's also just good for their sport in general to show how effective it is in an actual fight. So whether they want to promote their own sport or find a good way to make a living, this and women's MMA is here to stay. As long as, people like me and Sarah and all these other girls out there that are putting the work in are still around, I only see more and more girls coming up, and especially with Showtime still being a supporter of women's MMA and other promotions like Invicta that are focused solely on women and I think are great for developing new talent. I see only positive things happening for women's MMA, and I think one of the reasons why so many women are hesitant to come into it before is they didn't think it was a very secure career option. But I think that it's going to be that. I think that women they're very exciting fighters, and we're clever, and we're entertaining, and we're here to stay.
Let me ask you this, because there's a clear difference. I don't think I've ever seen a boring women's MMA fight. And between your last couple of fights and Sarah's fights and Misha's fights and even the two Invicta shows, we are yet to see a boring women's MMA fight. What do you think is the difference between a men's fight and a women's fight that is so interesting?
Well, I think women in general all have something to prove. We all got a chip on our shoulder, and we should be angry about the lack of respect that they've received up to this point. And also, women I feel like take things much more personally and are a little bit more emotional when they fight, which also makes it more interesting as well. And you see a lot more girls coming out slugging, and you don't see that feeling out period because they're there to fight and defeat their opponents and to make a good impression and not just, walk away with a better number on their record, which a lot of these guys can get away with because, to be honest, their sport is not in peril. We're fighting for our survival, literally.
Great. Thank you for your fighting for us.
No problem.
And ladies and gentlemen, we'll take our last question from Chris Connor with Last Call Radio Show in Boston.
Hi, thank you guys for letting me on. Rhonda, first question to you. How much pressure is there on you as one of a few big names on Strikeforce right now? I mean, with you and Tate, there was a lot of hype, a lot of trash talking. Sarah's not going to do that, and you don't feel any reason to manufacture a fake heat. So how much pressure is there do you feel to not only keep women's MMA alive right now, along with the Invicta fighters and the Strikeforce female fighters, but just to keep Showtime sort of relevant with a lot of the big names being right now going over to the UFC?
I've been putting the same amount of pressure on myself in the very beginning. When I started just as an amateur, I saw that the state the women's MMA was in was not very encouraging. And so I took whatever responsibilities I could onto myself to make us impossible to ignore. And, that worked very well. And I don't really feel like it's entirely my responsibility or anything like that, but I feel like that I'm capable of doing very good work for the women, and I feel like I've been doing a good job so far. I mean, look at us. We're a main event for the second time in 1 year. When has that ever happened before? And it's not like I feel like I have to do it, but it's something I want the sport to succeed, and that's one of my goals. And, I don't casually walk after my goals. I sprint after them with an axe.
And the last question is Sarah Kaufman. Sarah, I know a couple of years ago you were frustrated about not getting on to the main Showtime or even getting on to CBS when Ronda was Cyborg over here. You're now at the main event. It's what you wanted. How much, I guess, relief or sometimes is this bittersweet knowing that you're finally getting your chance to main event for Showtime for the title?
It has been a long road, and I've really tried to be, I've tried to push the women's MMA along, since I first fought for Strikeforce, and Showtime had a title fight on a challengers card, and since then, I think through fighting and through being vocal and just getting more recognition for females that it's an amazing place that it's the main event on a big card, and Showtime and Strikeforce are both supporting that, and the fans are there to kind of back it up, and that's all I can really ask for is just try and help the sport grow and get more females interested and make the pool that much bigger.
All right, best luck to both you ladies August 18th. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
That does conclude today's question and answer session. I'll turn it back over to our speakers for any closing remarks.
Thank you very much. Again, Strikeforce Rousey versus Kaufman takes place Saturday, August 18th from San Diego, California, and airs live on Showtime at 10 p.m. Eastern and Pacific. Thank you for taking the call today.
That does